Welcome, man. Welcome. NBA Finals. NBA Finals are set. So welcome to Three in the Key. The Spurs hold on. And funny enough, what was more of a wire to wire controlling. But OKC fought in Game 7, and so the trend continues. Since 2018, we will not have a repeat champion. We will not even have a repeat participant in the finals since 2019. This was actually the first time since 2019 that we even had a repeated conference finalist in back-to-back years. So shout out to OKC for their season. But they lost. Shout out to them young boys and the Spurs for winning that game. We now have it. The New York Knicks, who have kind of caught fire in the East against weaker competition, and the San Antonio Spurs, who are trying to buck historical trends with their youth and try to go out there and win the game. Try to do something that we haven't seen in a very long time, which is a superstar pop onto the scene, make the playoffs for the very first time, and win a championship. Haven't seen that in my lifetime. Last time that probably happened was Bill Walton with the 70s Trailblazers. So we'll see if Wemby can do it again. He is a special talent. And so let's just start with Game 7, man. We're going to talk a little about Game 7 specifically. We will then kind of zoom out from there for both teams. But especially OKC, now that it's the end of their season, this will probably be the last specific time they're mentioned on Three in the Key for a little while, except for kind of in passing or as the butt of jokes. So let's get to it, man. Game 7. What I was impressed by was that games 1 through 6, I felt like Wemby was absolutely dominant. Game 1, obviously. Game 1, he has that arrival game. He has 40 and 20. He looks ridiculous. They're down 3 with, I can't remember if it was regulation or overtime, but they're down 3 with 12 seconds left, and he pulls up from 30 feet. Like his name was Stephen Curry. Cashes that to send it to overtime. The Spurs are able to hold on. Just a truly dominant game, and then that doesn't even show the box score. It doesn't even show, except, obviously he averaged 3 blocks a game in this series, but it doesn't show just how dominant his defense was and just how hesitant he made all the OKC players. And so especially that was evident all series on the defensive end, but add that to that special offensive impact, that special impact on the glass in Game 1, and he had what is going, especially if they win the championship, what is going to amount as a game for the ages. I do think this game is on par with a lot of other losses that kind of had you arrive as maybe you're the best player in the league. I feel like Jordan had 63 against the Celtics. They lost. But for his legacy, that game may as well be a win. He's looked at as kind of arriving in that point. LeBron James, 48 special against the Detroit Pistons in the 07 conference finals. They got swept in the championship. But for all intents and purposes, that year was amazing for his legacy. He sort of arrived and he was here. And now we have Wemby. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. And win or lose, as long as he wins championships at some point in his career, then this will go down as all-time game, all-time moment from him. I mean, they just couldn't do anything with him. They can't do anything with him. So that was very interesting to see. But let me get back to it. I took myself down a rabbit hole. Game 1 through 6, it was the Wemby show. The Spurs did a great job, especially in a few of those games, kind of containing Shai. We'll talk about some of the other guys. OKC had injuries, and it looks like it was still 3-3. What I found unique about Game 7 was I didn't think Wembanyama was particularly dominant. He's still Wembanyama. He's still 7'6". He still put up 22.7 boards. Like he wasn't a scrub. He didn't choke. He didn't have a bad game. But I just felt like the dynamic shifted from Wemby dominating and Shai struggling in games 1 through 6, for the most part, to game 7, where Wemby did his job, but I wouldn't say dominated, and his team rose to the level and beyond. Shout out Stephon Castle. Shout out Dylan Harper, who I think is going to be amazing in 3 years. Shout out De'Aaron Fox, who had his best game of the series, not only in the box score, but just the way he looked. He actually looked fast. He actually looked quick. He actually looked like he could get to a shot. Shout out Keldon Johnson coming in the fourth and hitting big shots. Shout out Carter Bryant. Shout out everybody on that team. Game 7 was such a unique experience as a basketball fan over the last 2 years, where I have watched OKC as a team, as an organization, coaching, star player, depth, all the way down the roster, management. I watched them as an organization dominate every team they played, and I just watched them in the last series. Of course, we watched them all last year, but in the last series, do it to my team, the Los Angeles Lakers. And so the viewing experience watching game 1 through 6 was like, okay, Wemby, he's here. He's arguably the best player in the world. He's doing his thing. To game 7 of the Spurs dominated organizationally. The Spurs showed their dominance, yes, in their star player, but they also showed their dominance in their depth. They showed their dominance off the bench. They showed their dominance with scoring down the starting lineup. They showed their dominance in coaching. The organization is finally going to start getting some shine. Sam Presti, rightfully so, gets so much shine as a general manager. This team that they've put together in San Antonio, obviously, with the head of the snake being Victor Wembanyama, it's ready. They're ready. And they're in a position now with, I think, more than a coin flip chance, a weighted coin flips chance of hoisting Larry O'Brien trophy in Wemby's age 22 season, which if that were to happen, the league better hope he gets complacent. I'll say that, because it's very rare that Wemby, Castle, Harper, you have 3 star potential players, one, Hall of Fame GOAT potential, and the other 2, star superstar potential, who are all age 22 and below. So I think it would actually, this sounds odd, but I think it may be good for the league if New York wins, just because Wemby will be back almost assuredly, and I'm not sure if the Knicks will, or if any other team for that matter, has the stamina in this parity era, in this 2018, 2019 to now era that Adam Silver has just forcibly squeezed dynasties out of the league by any means necessary. You have to have one of the greatest GMs in history in order to squeeze out 5 years of dominance. It's gonna be tough, man. If y'all let that young boy win this year. So that was my first takeaway. The Spurs were the better team overall, not just Wemby. And that leads to, actually, again, games 1 through 6. I feel like Wemby on sum total outplayed Shai, but in game 7, SGA, salute, my boy. Salute to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the way that he ended his season. I never went as far as all the social media narratives talking about hating Shai and how, Shai is no good and he's foul grifting and he's not that good of a player. He's overrated. I mean, he's averaged 30 in like 4 or 5 straight years. I'm sure if it was so easy to flop your way to the free throw line and average 30 for 5 straight years, then a lot more people would do it. It feels similar to the Westbrook stat padding thing, where it's like, oh, he's seeking out rebounds. So Like you're telling me there's not a player fighting for his life, the eighth man, ninth man, 11th man on the roster that would be willing to fight for a rebound? Like, so I never went as far, but I will admit I felt like Shai was kind of a regular season guy who had organizational excellence around him in every single way, like from top to bottom, from GM to coach to secondary star to depth, like to end of the bench guys, just excellence everywhere that allowed them to get to the championship. Defense, like shooting, just enough because that's kind of their one weakness. Um, I sort of felt like, regular season guy, he averaged 30 in the playoffs. He's averaging 25. And so, he's a little bit easier to contain. And that does have a lot to do with the free throw stuff. I just don't think he's a scrub. Like, I think he deserves regular season MVP for the most part. I kind of have an issue with the way the award is given out, but y'all can listen to the season preview for that one. And all the hate, the minor hate in my heart, major hate in the world's heart that I have for Shai, it's gone. What a way to end the season. Salute to him. That second quarter run, the Spurs have momentum. The Spurs are pulling away slow. The Thunder did a good job fighting and keeping it, within striking distance. But the Thunder are getting to 10 points, getting to 14 points, getting a 15-point lead. And that fourth quarter run, the whole second half of the second quarter, besides the last minute when De'Aaron Fox spurred like a 7-0 Spurs run to take the lead. But that 5 or 6 minutes made this a basketball game. The Spurs were going to walk away with this. They were walking away with it. They might not have won by 40, but the Oklahoma City could not get that thing to single digits for any period of time until all of a sudden Shai said, hey, no, I'm not going out like that. We're not going out like that. And so I respect the MVP player having that mentality, coming out and saying, no, this is my pride. This is the way I play. This is the way we operate. We're not rolling over to these young boys that should not be beating us, especially when he had built-in excuses if he wanted them. J-Dub's out. AJ Mitchell's out. Chet may as well be out. So given all that around him, Shai, unbelievable display of basketball talent, unbelievable display of shot making. He looked like Kobe. He looked like Kobe in that game 7. The Spurs are playing great defense, and Shai is just rising up, hitting shot after shot. He's unstoppable, unguardable, nothing you can do. And I respect the Spurs for, in the second half, continuing that trend actually. Because, for all that, the Spurs still went into halftime up. And so, they could have tried to come out and throw triple teams and do all this and that, and maybe gave the OKC role players a chance to kind of get involved a little bit more, because nobody offensively was really there except for Wallace was there, Shai was there, and then there were a couple players who weren't scared, but it just wasn't their night. Like, Caruso just wasn't his night. Hartenstein, he played good. He played well, but just in the big moments, it just wasn't his night. And so what Shai had to do carrying that team with the whole defense geared to stop him, big respect. I think that he saved that one game, saved this conversation being an argument on who the best player in the league is. I truly believe that. I think Wemby would now win that poll. I think Jokic will still get some votes. Giannis will still get some votes. And I think Shai, games 1 through 6, was slowly falling off that list in a similar way that Luka's kind of fallen off that list. Like, he's not considered the best player in the world. And I feel like Shai was sort of trending towards that. Yeah, he's top 5, but come on now. And I think Game 7 kind of saved that situation for him. And he is arguably the best player in the world. I will say that flat-footed. He looked like it, and the Spurs as a team were just able to overwhelm his level of individual excellence. So Shai has my respect. Wemby, man. Wemby. What is the league gonna do? This feels a little bit weird because um the Warriors won in 18. We thought they were gonna keep winning forever. The Raptors won in 19. Exception. Lakers won in 20. We assume they can keep winning for a couple more years. Bucks win in 21. We think they're good. In 23, Boston, or was it Denver wins. We think they're set up for a while. 24, Boston. 25, OKC. What I'm trying to say is since 2018, there's been 7 or 8 champions, and 5 of 7 or 6 of 8, you feel like they're poised to go on this run. You feel like they have at least 2 more years, maybe 5 more years with the Thunder and the Celtics, maybe 8 more years of absolute dominance. And it just hasn't been able to happen, whether it's injuries, whether it's the CBA and Adam Silver destroying dynasties, whatever it is. There is something in the water in this area of NBA lore where it's just incredibly difficult to go back to back, incredibly difficult to three-peat. The Steph and KD Warriors didn't three-peat. So I will say that there's been a lot of talk. I've seen a lot of talk about now that the Spurs are in the finals, Wembanyama's there, that they will just kind of take over the league. And I would just say I understand that Wemby is such a unique player, even in just the fact that he got to the finals, that I do feel he will break some molds, but I am not as convinced that no one else has a chance. I'm not even as convinced that the Oklahoma City Thunder won't have a chance in the next couple of years going forward. A lot had to happen for this game 7, as close as the series could get, victory. This is not an excuse team. As a matter of fact, it was such a breath of fresh air watching the post-game interview for the Thunder. They interviewed Mark Daigneault and asked him a little bit about the injuries. J-Dub's out. AJ Williams is out. And he said something very interesting to me. He said, we wouldn't be where we are right now and where we were last year if we were an excuse team. We've never been an excuse team, and we won't start now. So, yeah, Jalen Williams, our second best player, goes down. No excuses. AJ Mitchell, who's blossomed into our third most reliable offensive creator, injured. Chet Holmgren, milk carton. That boy is MIA. And we refuse to make those excuses, and that's why we won the championship last year. We were in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals this year. I feel like a lot of teams in the league, a lot of fans, but it's not their job, so I'll let it slide, can take that mentality. But a lot of coaches. I've watched LeBron James, my favorite player of all time, for pretty much the past 6 years or 5 years, have injuries as an excuse and not enough games played together, and we don't have enough time on the floor, and how are we ever going to gel? Oh my gosh, it's already March and we don't like. I almost feel like this year, where the injuries were the most severe, was kind of their best attitude as a team, because the coaches will do it too. And, it's because LeBron James is for all intents and purposes, a leader. Now that Luka's there, maybe the power dynamic shift, but LeBron is kind of the leader of every organization he's been on, besides the Heat. And that level of excuse making, even from the coaches, hey, oh, this guy was out, Smart was out, it killed us. Like, that could be true, but to actually publicly and even privately in your heart feel like you can't win going into a game because of injury, that's loser mentality. And I just have so much respect for how the Thunder operate and how they didn't take the first available excuse, as Mark Daigneault said. However, I'll do it for him. Second best player was out, who was very important. He's very important for them because they don't have creators besides Shai. They do have some decent finishers. Chet is supposedly and purportedly a decent finisher. Hartenstein's a decent finisher. Cason Wallace is a good play finisher. Dort, he'll shoot it. Like they have some McCain. Even though McCain can create a little bit as a catch and shoot guy, he's lethal. So they have a lot of play finishers, but play creators, Jalen Williams and AJ Mitchell being out hurts tremendously. So I am not convinced at all that if these exact two teams see each other next year, it's just over. Wave the white flag. OKC Spurs are advancing in 4 and 5. No, sir. The Thunder will be back. The Thunder will be back. And so I would just pump the brakes on the whole league domination theory, only because the league is built purposefully to disallow that sort of domination. And I do think Wemby will break some molds because I do think the Spurs will be in the mix, conference finals and finals for the next 10 years. I actually do. I think, they might have 8 conference finals appearances in the next 10 years. So I'm not saying that they're scrubs and this is over and this is a fluke. But what I am saying is I think, assuming that because Wemby got to the finals this year and hasn't even played a game, that they're going to win the championship next year and the year after is a little bit premature. However, this year, that was going forward, but this year, you could see it, man. Wemby won that thing. Wemby celebrated, or the level of emotion displayed by Wemby after winning this was a lot higher than you normally see from anybody, but from the superstar of the conference finalists. And to me, 2 things stood out. One, incredibly happy for another young man. He's actually 4 years younger than me. Feels crazy. But another young man who worked really, really, really hard towards a goal, who set his mind to something, who dedicated his life to something, and is now achieving that success. Although the way his body is, he could easily have succumbed to injury. He had a blood clot situation that literally threatened his career. He's not in his home country, and there's a whole lot of factors surrounding that. And so I applaud and I am happy seeing somebody display that emotion for getting closer to a lifelong dream that he is finally sort of this close to attaining. So that's number 1, and that's the positive part, and you got to start there. But number 2, that's me. That's Kaim. I'm a fan. If I'm the New York Knicks and I see that level of celebration for winning your conference finals, that level of celebration for the right to play against me, I'm feeling very disrespected. I'm feeling very overlooked. I'm feeling looked past. And if I was Mike Brown, the coach of the Knicks, I would use that as motivation. I would say, we can just do the Michael Jordan. We can make it up. It doesn't have to be true because they're going to need that extra gear anyway, which I might touch on a little bit later. But I think New York Knicks should look at that as disrespect. And that doesn't always mean it's going to go well because the Knicks started chanting, "We want Wemby" in the middle of the conference finals when it wasn't even clear the Spurs were going to win yet. So the Thunder should have taken that as disrespect. And, who knows, they might be off social media. That'd be smart. And they didn't even see it, so they don't even care. But either way, it didn't work. They lost. So, just because you feel disrespect doesn't mean anything. But I would use that as motivation. That level of motivation, he's celebrating like he won the championship. Like, to me, it looks like he thinks he won the championship, which means he's looking at this Thunder team as the real challenge. I'll be interested. Wemby's a really, really emotional dude. He elbows people in the face, punches people left and right, doesn't get called for it. But he's 22, and he's amazing. So I let it slide. He's a very emotional dude, so I'm not willing to come out here with my foot down and stamp it. But I'll be interested. If they win the championship and we play the side by side of the level of emotion, which one will end up seeming more championship-esque? In my heart, I feel rightfully so that the Spurs and Wemby in particular are looking at the Thunder as the real challenge this year, and that them beating the Thunder is actually them overcoming this season. Everything else is easy or easier. So it'll be on Mitch Johnson to kind of roll that back in and make sure they approach the game with seriousness. And I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. So New York versus the Spurs coming up, man. We kind of talk. The Spurs were just overall a better team. Wemby was a better player than Shai for 6 games, and the Spurs were just overall a better team. In Game 7, I do think the Knicks should strongly fear Wemby and the Spurs this year, but I'm going to pump the brakes a bit on the, he's going to win 4 in a row. Now, would I be surprised if he won 4 out of the next 10? No. So like a Magic Johnson type run, Larry Bird type run, that wouldn't shock me at all. But a Michael Jordan type run, 6 and 8, that would shock me. That would shock me in this era. I think OKC will be back. They will be back. OKC and the Spurs are really good, and in my opinion, a lot better than everyone else right now. So it's going to go back and forth between luck, internal improvement, because Castle and Harper and Wemby, but Castle and Harper are going to continue to get better. The Spurs have a couple of other guys that are going to get better. Eventually, it's going to happen to the Thunder first. They're going to get expensive, have to lose guys. They might lose Dort this summer. They might lose Hartenstein this summer. They might lose Isaiah Joe this summer. So, things are going to start happening with the CBA that just makes it impossible to sustain a team. I spared Chet today. But he's got to be better if they want to beat this specific matchup. And then I will go 2 minutes or a minute and a half on the Knicks and Spurs. I think I'll come back later to finish that one up. But I have a theory. I feel that the Thunder are the worst matchup in the league for every team except the Spurs. I feel that if you're any other team, if you are the Cavaliers, if you're the Knicks, if you're the Lakers, if you're the Rockets, if you are the Celtics, whoever you are, you would rather play the Spurs than the Thunder. But specifically, the Spurs themselves have the Thunder's number as much as you can have their number winning 4-3. But if you expand that into the regular season as well, then they are probably more like 6-3 or 7-3 against the Spurs. Maybe more. Hold on. They were 4-3 in the playoffs. They might have been 9-3 if you include the regular season. And they've had a little bit of success last season too. So the Spurs, specifically with their unique ability to get out in rotation, to prevent/discourage Shai from driving the basketball, to not allow Shai to get much separation for those mid-ranges, so all of his shots are tough, and then to just hit their own timely threes, to have Victor Wembanyama, arguably the best player in the world and arguably the most unique, special player we've seen in decades. I think that specific issue gives OKC a lot of trouble, but I think everybody else, including the Knicks, which was the point, would rather see the Spurs than the Thunder. So I think the Spurs are pleased as they can be. Neither team is easy, but I think in their heart of hearts, they're pleased to see the Spurs instead of the Thunder. New York had success against the Spurs this year in the regular season while having no success against the Thunder. This is a NBA Cup redo. So the NBA Cup this year was a preview of the NBA Finals. That's pretty cool. And I don't have a pick yet. It's Monday. I'm recording this. The game starts Wednesday. I do not have a pick yet, but I just know it's going to be very interesting. I'll come back to you guys after actually thinking about it. I haven't thought about the Knicks in a little bit. I think the Knicks are going to be shocked by the difference in the quality of the Spurs, and they're lucky they didn't see the Thunder versus the Cavaliers, the Hawks, and the 76ers. I think this is a significant step up, but I will also say for the Knicks that if you're going to play weaker competition and you're a great team, what should you do? You should beat them by 30. And they beat teams by 10 and 20 and 30 repeatedly over the last 2 months in the playoffs. Repeatedly. After going down 2-1 to the Hawks in the first round, they have not lost a game. They win a lot of them by 20 plus. They're blowing teams out left and right. They're amazing offensively and defensively. So They have a shot, but they have to come with it. They have to come with it. The role players are going to have to step up, because if the Spurs guard Brunson anything like how they guarded Shai, it's going to be hard out there for Brunson. Now, I trust Brunson in the fourth quarter if it's close, maybe more than any player. Certainly more than any player on the Spurs, but maybe more than any player in the league. And so I think he'll find a way to be effective. But, you know, it's going to be hard out there for both teams. If Mitchell Robinson's hand is affecting him, I wonder if that'll affect his ability to be physical with Wemby on defense. So we'll talk about all that when I flesh it out. But either way, man, the Thunder season is over. We will have a repeat champion for the 7th time in a row, or we will not have a repeat champion for the 7th time in a row. Y'all let me know who you're cheering for, man. Is Shai still a foul baiter? Do y'all not give him that respect? Is Wemby clearly the best player in the world? Who will win the NBA Finals? We will talk about that. Knicks versus Spurs, man. Wow. Either Wemby arrives or the Knicks break the curse and Jalen Brunson is going to shoot up a lot of people. Jalen Brunson might end up on a poster like this if he can win this one. And his legacy will increase exponentially. So this is very interesting, man. I appreciate y'all joining. Argue, laugh, subscribe, share this with somebody. I appreciate you guys making it to this point. 3 in the key. We out.